Good morning and welcome to First Edition, the online ministry of First Community Church. My name is Glenn Miles. I'm the senior minister here in this amazing congregation, and we are thrilled that you've joined us on this day for worship. We want you to know right here at the beginning that no matter who you are, where you're from, where you're going, what you believe or don't believe, you are welcomed and accepted as you are in this church. Right now there's a QR code up on your screen. We'd love to know that you've joined us for worship on this day. Use the camera option on your phone, capture the code, click on the link, and you can register your attendance. You can submit a prayer concern, and even if you choose to do so, you can give online in this way as well. We'd love to hear from you. Today is part 4 in my summer sermon series, Real Theology, Going to the Movies with God. This sermon focuses on the film Elemental. Have you seen it? It's a sweet little Pixar cartoon that tells a beautiful story about how we can make our way through the world despite our differences. It addresses things like bigotry, racism, ostracism, and more, but it does it in a gentle way that allows us to think about these things at a serious level. We'll also hear from the Bible, that old word from the book of Deuteronomy that says, remember that you were once a stranger in Egypt. When you strangers come to your land, remember you were a stranger before too. Welcome them and receive them. And also from Paul's word to the church in Galatia, there's neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, male and female, all are one. Yeah, there's some real hopefulness in this sermon. I'm looking forward to sharing it with you right now.
Abide with me, fast for even
Romeo and Juliet, Bogart and Hepburn, Travis and Taylor. I was hoping you'd recognize that last one. You're as hip as I think you are. At the heart of every great love story, there is a call to pay attention to what matters the most. At the heart of every great love story, there is a call to find courage, strength, and hope as we look honestly at ourselves and our culture and our world. Love calls us to move forward with courage, to utilize the strength given by God and the hopeful eyes to see the world as God intends for it to be. At the heart of every great love story, there's an invitation to pay attention to what matters the most. The film Elemental is the inspiration for this final sermon in the Real Theology Sermon series. It is at its heart a love story between Ember, she's one of the fire people. Do you hear the pun, by the way, in her name? Ember, she's of the fire people. And Wade, another pun for you, Wade and the water people. These two will find something that draws them together. It's called love. It's amazing, it's miraculous, because those two elements can't exist together with each other at all. But let's not get too far ahead of the story. The film Elemental is set in a fictional land called Element City. It looks like a beautiful and vibrantly colored Manhattan. All four elements can be found there. And the four elements represent four different peoples: earth, air, fire, and water. But the fire people arrived late, immigrating from a faraway land. They've been forced off into what is called Firetown. When they arrived there, it was dilapidated, run down, broken. But the fire people moved in and rebuilt everything, strengthening and creating a marvelous, lively culture. It's a beautiful thing to see how this happens. We hear the story then of Ember and her parents. Her mother is pregnant with Ember when they make the long journey across the sea to Element City. And they arrive and they find themselves building a new life, a new business there in Firetown. Her father buys this old building, transforms it into a beautiful place for them to live above, where there's a store down below. And the store sells food and all kinds of other things to the fire people. And this is where Amber and Wade meet. Ember, I keep saying Amber. Ember and Wade meet. Ember's been put in charge of the store in this day. It's her father's dream that someday she'll inherit the business from him and he can retire with his wife. And he wants to see how she'll do. And so he puts her in charge. But unfortunately, there's a customer who just really drives her crazy. And she gets angry, and suddenly her hot temper, do you see what I did there? Her hot temper explodes, literally explodes. It rattles the entire building, including the pipes in the basement that suddenly burst, flooding the basement, which is a surprising thing to Ember and everyone else, because there's not supposed to be any water in Firetown. As you can imagine, it's dangerous for the fire people. The water was shut off years and years ago. But here she is in the basement trying to discover what's going on. That's when she meets Wade, the water guy. He's a city inspector. He was checking out a leak somewhere else in Element City. And by the cause of the explosion, the water sucks him down into the drain. The next thing you know, he's going through the pipes in her father's store, and he lands right there in the water. That's where we can tell. Oh, Wade and Ember don't give us any signs necessarily, but we can tell, the viewers can tell by the way it's drawn, by the way the story's being told, that there's a spark. I did it again. There's a spark between Wade and Ember. A love story is beginning. Well, fast forward a bit. They haven't quite become a couple yet, but they're spending a lot of time together when they decide to go out and look for this leak. What's the source of this leak so they can stop her father's store from flooding, from the water causing havoc and danger in Element City, in Firetown? So she creates a hot air balloon that they gently guide around Element City looking for the source of the leak. As they're making their way toward what they think might be the leak, on their left they pass a stadium that looks very much like Madison Square Garden in New York City. Have you been there before or seen pictures? But this one is broken down, covered with vines and plants. There's a fence around it. It's obviously not been used in years. The sign on the fence says, closed, no admittance allowed. Wade notices that Ember's whole appearance has changed. Something's wrong as she looks at that dilapidated old stadium. He says to her, "What is it you're feeling right now? What's happening to you?" She says, "Years ago, when I was a little girl, my father took me to that stadium to see the Vivisteria plant. The Vivisteria plant is one that can exist in all four elements, including fire. I was so excited to see it, to see a flower, a plant that could exist even in my people, with my people. We were in line, making our way slowly into the stadium to see the Vivisteria exhibition when we saw a sign that said, 'No fire allowed.' We walked past it, thinking we could just get in, and then a guard came and stopped us. 'Your kind not welcome here. No fire allowed.' My father was so angry," she said, "so embarrassed. It hurts to this day." Wade is a very empathetic character. He looks at her with tears in his eyes, and he says to her, "You must have been so sad on that day." She says, "How do you do that? That's amazing that you can relate to people so well." In a scene earlier, she reminds him of how great he was in getting an entire stadium to chant the name of the star player together to encourage that player in the game, which that team ended up winning. How is it you can inspire an entire stadium and read my mind and connect so closely with me? I don't understand. All I can do," she says, "is explode with my temper and anger. But you seem to connect." I was going to show you this clip, by the way, but we had some technical issues. So then he says to her, let's put the words up on the screen, "I don't think a temper is so bad. Sometimes when I lose my temper, I think it's just me trying to tell me something I'm not ready to hear." Leave that up for a moment. There's some deep wisdom in this film. In my experience as a pastor, I oftentimes see people who present as being mad or angry, and oftentimes they're using mad to cover sad. Sometimes our anger and our temper is trying to point us towards something that we know intuitively that we need to pay attention to. Thanks for the quote, guys. Ember, in this moment, remembers the bigotry that she faced. She remembers what it felt like to be pushed away from a place simply because of who she is, simply because of who her father is. And you can feel the anger, the resentment, and the frustration that appears. The bigotry in Element City is fictional, but we know all too well that it's real, even now, today, in the United States of America. You don't have to work too hard to find it. It still exists. It seems to be becoming almost more and more explicit every day. Did any of you see the baseball game the other day between the San Francisco Giants and the St. Louis Cardinals? They played at historic Rickwood Field down in Birmingham, Alabama. It's the first place Willie Mays, the great Willie Mays, the greatest baseball player of all time. You're welcome to argue with me, and you will lose. He's the greatest ever was. In fact, I'm wearing an orange tie and black slacks, the Giants' colors, in honor of Willie Mays on this day. It was going to be a celebration of his life and the way he gave himself to the community and to the world. But unfortunately, if you saw the game or read the news, you know that Willie died the day before. The day before he died, he said to a caregiver in his home, "I really want to be there, but I don't think my body will let me go." I believe in all my heart that after he passed the next day, his spirit was there with the ball players. Well, it was a fun thing to watch before the game started. The Giants lost, but the winner loss is not important. What really was important, the way they honored all these still living old Negro League baseball players and reminded people of our past and the way these guys played against and fought against racism and all the bigotry that they had to face. It was really a marvelous celebration with all kinds of ceremonies, including one for Willie Mays as well. And part of the pregame ceremony was focused on the Fox Sports guys who were interviewing various folks and saying, what's it was like for you to play here? What's your experience in this place? What are you feeling? One of those, maybe you saw this, was Reggie Jackson, another Hall of Fame baseball player. His career was much later than Willie Mays's, but they did play against each other and became good friends. Reggie Jackson surprised them. One of the commentators said, what was it like? What memories are you experiencing? He said, frankly, it's a hard place to return to. I can feel the anger welling up inside me just being here on this field. This town is the first place I was ever called the N-word, and he didn't use N-word. He used the word. He said it out loud. He said it was playing for the Birmingham A's back in the 60s in the minor leagues that I was first told at a restaurant, we don't serve N-words here. It was playing for this team here as we traveled to other places to play, where I was told most of the time on the road, we don't let N-words stay here. The anger, the frustration, I'm still feeling it. It's all coming back. His memory was bringing all that back to the front. Now, he did say, there were white players on that team who saved my life. Because so many occasions when I was called that word, I was ready to respond with violence and take on that one. And I know if I'd done that, I would have been ganged up on, I would have been beaten, I might have lost my life. To this day, I'm grateful to my white teammates, my white manager, who stood beside me and stood with me. But it's hard to forget those feelings. If you don't think racism is alive still in this world, in this country, just take a few moments and read through 3 or 4 different newspapers. Pay attention to the headlines. Pay attention to the small print. As much as there are some who are trying to rewrite our history and trying to whitewash things away, it's still there even today. You know, when I watched the film Elemental a few weeks ago and getting ready for this sermon series, and especially for this particular sermon, I thought of Galatians 3:28. John read it a moment ago. It's an amazing word, a radical word, especially radical in Paul's day. Do you remember what Paul wrote to the church in Galatia? There is therefore no longer Jew or Greek, slave or free, male and female. We are all one. What a radical thing to say 2,000 years ago. It's still radical to this day. Imagine what it means to be one in Christ Jesus, one in God's love, one in the comfort of the Spirit. Imagine what it means to be one family, not just in church, but in the world. It means this, you might be the king of Galatia, you might be a slave of Paul or someone else, but here at this table, you are neither of those things. You are a child of God. It's a powerful word. A beautiful word, one that reminds us of what our calling is here as a church. We are called and have been inspired for over 100 years to put that word into practice, to make sure this table is always open, to make sure those doors are always open, to welcome and accept people no matter who they are or where they're from or where they may be going. That is the word that carries us forward. If we continue to have the hope, the strength, and the courage that we need, that will be who we are. Maybe we just need to be reminded every once in a while. I loved Otis Moss's 2 sermons, especially the one he preached at 9 o'clock over in Grace Hall. If you were there, you might remember that he moved through that sermon and brought us to a point where he said, this is who you are. You are a church who is more than willing to embrace the queer and the Quaker, the Baptist and the Buddhist. And then he went on with a long list of titles like that, reminding us again of that simple, clear word, that there is no one who is not welcome at the table of God. We're followers of Rabbi Jesus, the amazing prophet, the teacher, the preacher, the holy child of God, a human being fully alive, who when asked a testy question, so what's the greatest of the commandments? He said, love God, love your neighbor. It sounds like he's saying 2. No, it's just 1, because if you love your neighbor, it's as though you're loving God. If you love God, it's as though you're loving your neighbor. I'm thinking this morning as well of another rabbi that I know. His name is Rabbi Art Nematoff. He lives in Kansas City. He used to be a rabbi here in Columbus for many years before he took a congregation in Kansas City where he's now retired. I remember going to a Rotary meal with Rabbi Art. where he was asked to talk about Judaism, and he got up and the first thing he said was, oftentimes people ask me, tell me about your religion, and I say to them, a funny thing happened on the way out of Egypt. It's a cute line. It's a great line. Art's a really good preacher and a fine scholar of the Torah, of the Hebrew Bible. And he's exactly right. A funny thing happened on the way out of Egypt. Israel is a nation that was formed as they left slavery, as they left Egypt. You heard the word from Deuteronomy. Those are the words of Moses. Those are the words that remind Israelites and us as well to remember that we have been strangers in the past, and now we're called to welcome the stranger into our midst, to feed them and shelter them, to provide for the orphan, to care for the widow. In fact, Israel is not Israel because God said, oh, you're my special little people, and I'm going to make sure you are special above everyone else. No, Israel becomes Israel when they practice those things, when they welcome the stranger, when they care for the orphan, when they bless the widow and give her care and comfort as well. That's when they become who God has called them to be. That's when we become who Jesus has called us and invited us to be as well. The act of remembering is a sacred and holy thing. To remember is to recall the past, who we are and who we are now, so that we can prepare for the marvelous future that God is setting before us. To remember is to commit a sacred and holy act. Ember, in the movie Elemental, remembers the bigotry that her parents faced. She remembers the anger and the frustration. And even though she does not want to be a shopkeeper, even though she does not want to take care of her father's store, that's not her dream, that's not her idea, she believes she needs to in order to care for her father's dream. In order to keep the flame alive, literally to keep the flame alive, to keep the store intact, she pushes her own dreams aside. But it's in the love she discovers for Wade and the love he has for her that allows him to get past their immense differences. Water and fire are dangers for each other. Somehow, through the power of their love, not only are they able to touch hands, they're able to touch hearts. And in that moment, after a disaster has happened at the store, she finds the courage, the strength, and the hope she needs to tell her father what she really wants to do. You see, it's Wade who's helped her see that she's a brilliant artist, and the way she can contribute to the world is not by running the shop, but by giving these beautiful gifts of art away and beautifying the world. That's what she can do. Through the gift of her artistry, the world can become a better place. Now she's found the courage, because of the love that she has for Wade and he has for her, she can speak openly to her father and say, through tears, she apologizes. Father, I'm so sorry. I want to be an artist. I want to give myself to the world, but I don't want to be a shopkeeper. I'm sorry that your dream will not come true, to see your shop go on. And the father says, Ember, the dream I have is you. You're the dream. You're what I dreamed of. You're the family I wanted. You are the dream. Go and give yourself away to the world. Do you see what love can do? To see the power and the beauty in it? You know, there's a great old movie called The African Queen with Katharine Hepburn and Humphrey Bogart. Now, I wasn't born yet when it came out, so don't tease me about that. But I'm a movie nerd. I love to watch old movies, and I won't get into the whole story except that Humphrey Bogart is this rough and rugged riverboat driver in Africa. Katharine Hepburn's character is this genteel, very sweet, precious Christian missionary, and through their trials and tribulations and encountering the Nazis and all sorts of other things, they fall deeply in love. And it's their love, literally in the movie, it's their expression of love for each other that saves their lives. Go and watch it and tell me I'm wrong. It's amazing to see what happens when love is real, when love is the choice we make. It was love that empowered Jesus in his ministry. It was love that resurrected him from the dead. It was love that gave Paul the insight to see that we are all one in Christ Jesus. It was love that gave Martin the dream. It was love that gave us, First Community, that gave us the courage, the strength, and the hope that we need to be the people that God has called us to be, to welcome any and all, and to accept everyone as they are. It's through the power of strength, courage, and hope. And hope does not disappoint. Amen.